Hello, YouTube. Welcome back to the channel. So I have a little conversation. I brought back Mike, Baseball Collector. Mike, good afternoon. How are you?
I am good, Carlos. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I did laugh a little bit before we started talking. Mike was already ready. He was already in his defensive posture. It's like, no, I just want to have a little chat on content. This is look. You guys have been well behaved. Here's to your credit. You have been very well behaved. You guys. You haven't said anything like super controversial or anything. Like all the controversy had nothing to do with you guys. You guys are chilling. You're doing your thing.
That's right. I decided to steer clear of as much controversy as I can and just be me, and that's is what it is.
It's worked out. Yeah, like we had the YouTube Sports Card Hall of Fame, and there was a little bit of people is like, but that had nothing to do with you guys. That was something entirely unrelated, and I gave them their credit, so to speak. But it's like, and I laughed when you did your nomination, which I appreciated. I did see it, and I also included a little clip in it. I enjoyed it. The little chuckle beforehand is really what sold it for me. I appreciated that particular piece.
Well, I had to. I knew in particular you would get a chuckle out of it,
Mm.
and so I thought about you chuckling about it, and that made me chuckle.
Hmm.
So that was what prompted that in that moment. But you deserved it. You have a great channel,
No,
so
I appreciate it. I appreciate
you
it.
do a lot. I mean, again, you can respect a content creator without necessarily having to A, agree with them, or
Hmm.
B, collect what they. I don't collect hockey, although I do love Mike Modano, so we have that in common.
Yeah, and to be clear, hockey is literally Medano is the predominant piece in hockey. I actually collect a lot more vintage baseball than most people are aware of. So it's like,
Then yeah, I mean, but my point is you can respect somebody who's
yeah,
doing stuff that we're all going to have our own little tribes within
mhm.
this, community, and your tribe is loves you and you do good stuff and you support them and you're great. So yeah, deserving, no doubt.
No, sorry, I appreciate it. But it's always one of those things. We've had chuckles where we've had the discussion to like last time we spoke is that it's like I don't have any issue with anything you guys are doing, but if something catches my ear that I'm like, I don't know about that one. I've never been shy about saying anything, and I think that's where it works. That's why I say like, no, you guys have been very much under the radar. I think the only thing that was interesting was Ty's issues with PSA, which was perfectly valid, and I did talk about that video where he had
Yep.
his issues with them, but it was a valid video for him to make, and it was perfectly sound, and it was a discussion point, obviously, but that video took off. But like, no, you're allowed, you're entitled. If they didn't do a good job, you're entitled to say your piece, and I thought that was perfectly fine.
Fair enough.
Yeah. And I think that's the key piece though. That a lot of times it's like, no, I don't just pick on people for the sake of picking on people. We'll talk about thing where I think it's valid, and if y'all are doing your thing, it's like, great, sounds good to me. Now, from a content perspective, I did want to chat with you a little bit because
Sure.
I was giving you a little bit of heads up on this one because I was watching that now that Bench Clear has been going on for a little bit. I actually found your video where you initially talked about on your channel that you were going to be joining the Bench Clear network, so to speak, and I want to chat with you a little bit on that. And the results were a little bit mixed, and it was also the same kind of mixed results when Ty was talking about chasing cardboard and having the kind of the little paywall for the extras. To be clear, the main show is going to be right on the, but there's always a little bit of that back and forth. So that's one of the kind of topics that I like talking about when people react strongly to stuff like that.
Sure.
Yeah. So we'll
Go
get
ahead.
into, yeah. So no, we're going to get into that in a second. But
Yeah.
my first question is kind of now you guys have had a little over 2 years now on Bench Clear, and the original idea was it was going to be like this network. I think the way it was originally conceived of or described, it was going to be this network. And at this point, I think you've kind of achieved that. You've got these shows in these different categories. I put a little list together quickly just to refresh my memory. Obviously, you got the Hobby Palooza thing that is happening every year, so that's one. Because we weren't able to go to the national, you guys created it, but now it's kind of an annual thing. I think it's served its purpose and done well with that, so that's one thing. You get the On the Fly series, which you guys have done a little bit here and there. The Golden Age of Parkour podcast, which I think you've gotten to 100 episodes. So congratulations on 100
Thank you.
episodes. Right now, the latest ones that I've seen. So you guys took on some episodes of Hobby Hotline. So you got a little bit of that. And you got the Hobby Think Tank, which is a little bit of a series of shows that you've got with some hosts. You're bringing in some additional people as well. And then I also mentioned the Chasing Cardboard thing, which is kind of a spin off show with its own YouTube channel that is doing very well. So I would consider that a network. How are you guys feeling about how these things have gone in about 2 years and change on?
I would certainly say because first it was me, Ty, and Jeff
Mm-hmm.
Hofer
Pack Geek, yeah.
from Pat Geek,
Yep.
exactly. And hey, let's create a hub. Let's create a place where people can go and consume all kinds of content. Just like any network, there would be things that you would enjoy on it. Any television network that you would. I don't watch everything on NBC, but I watch some shows on NBC, for example, or any pick your network, right?
Hmm.
So that was the idea, is to bring a football guy and a basketball guy and a this and a breaker and a, do different. We had Up North Collectors for a while. They're a breaking channel, where they just father son breaking boxes together, and showing stuff off. So that was the idea.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, most people we have found are incredibly loyal to their own content, their own brand,
Hmm.
and they don't want to diminish from that.
Hmm.
I, because I own part of Bench Clear, said I'm just going to stop doing Baseball Collector at least for a year,
Hmm.
dedicate all of my content to Bench Clear Media, and just see if this idea can work. I'd been doing Baseball Collector for years and years, and it's like, hey, why not try something new?
Hmm.
I can always go back and do Baseball Collector videos, which I have.
Hmm.
And so now I've segmented my content creation from Baseball Collector being predominantly just me showing different parts of my collection, things I pick up, showcases, whatever. Bench Clear is more hobby related topics and things. And then Chasing Cardboard is, it's like you said, its own animal
Hmm.
that's meant to be more trying to reach a non-hobby related audience, quite frankly.
Hmm.
And it's doing that a lot. We get a lot of comments of people saying, "I'm not even into cards, but this is a great episode. I love this show," or whatever. So it's allowed me now to segment my content creation. I don't talk a lot on Baseball Collector about things going on in the hobby. I might mention a few things now and then, but predominantly I save that for Golden Age of Cardboard or Hobby Think Tank,
Hmm.
or the occasional time I'm on Hobby Hotline. Hobby Hotline actually came to us, and John knew I was already a part of it, part of the consortium of people
Hmm.
participating in that. They felt, I feel like Hobby Hotline is a great concept of a
Hmm.
show. Um, it leaves a little bit to be desired on the execution end, and I've told this to people involved in it that are way more heavily involved in it than I am. And but I said, hey, look, let's bring it. If you want to, we want to run just one show a week on Bench Clear Media. And I said, okay, you can do your Saturday show there,
Hmm.
and let's see if it's any different. If the audience changes, if people gravitate towards it more. It's been more successful, but it's just because there's more people that tune into Bench Clear Media content or have access to Bench Clear Media content through subscription and whatnot. But then Hobby Think Tank was an idea that Danny Black and I came up with, and like, hey, let's take the things that maybe Hobby Hotline can do, but do it where it's, because I think people need, and part of the content creation thing is people want to see the same people.
Hmm.
People watch your show, they tune into your live stream to watch you and the guests that you have on regularly,
Hmm.
Dave or Andy or Yannick, whoever,
Hmm.
all the guys that you kind of tend to have on. They want to know what they're going to get when they click on your video. And a Hobby Hotline is 24 people. You never know which two or three or four are going to be on the screen at any time, and so that makes it less, I think, attractive to a potential consumer of that content, because they're
Hmm.
just like, I don't know what I'm going to get. So unless it's just really compelling title or whatever, I'm probably not going to watch that. And so Hobby Think Tank was, hey, we're going to have four guys that are part of Hobby Think Tank, and it's myself, John Keating, Danny Black, and Mike from Junk Wax Hero.
Hmm.
And so three of those guys had never been part of a channel. They all have their own things and they all do their own thing. And that's where I'm finding, if you want to build a network, you can't make somebody, why would you put your best content on a network when you can put it on your own channel? Right? Why would you do that?
Hmm.
And so, well, hey, let's do these collaborative things that are a little bit, less about you individually and more about the idea, that we're trying to discuss. And that's been so far so good. I think I just recorded an episode that's going to air this week with me and John Keating. So yeah, and we switch up who's with who every week so
Hmm.
that you're never with the same guy, but it's the same four guys is who you're going to get. Two of the four guys week after week, you're going to see that. So I don't know. It's a revolving thing. To answer your question, I guess more directly, I would call it a mixed results.
Hmm.
We've had some things where we've brought on some people to do content and it's worked for a little while.
Hmm.
Then it got to a point like Ty, let's just do our thing, man. Let's just you and me, because the best thing about that came out of uh, so far of Bench Clear Media is my friendship with Ty Wilson.
Mhm.
And I mean, way beyond cards, way beyond content creation. We are friends outside of that, and getting to know him and has been just awesome.
Sounds
So
good.
if everything else sucked from there, that would be an okay result to me, because I got to meet Ty and become friends with him.
Right. No, that makes sense. And part of the reason I'm interested in it, so just kind of elaborate on what we chatted briefly before we hit the record button, was that right now, effectively, what you guys have done is you've been a bit of a petri dish on content. You've effectively experimented with a lot of these different formats in this thing. Kind of what you're experiencing, what you're describing, is what you've learned along the way as you've tried these different iterations. But basically, as you go along, you start going like, okay, so that didn't work. Why didn't that work? Or that kind of works. Well, why does that work? And then you start to kind of put the pieces together a little bit. One of the things you touched on there is that there is an element of consistency, and and it's funny is that I'll get criticism about the very same thing you talked about with the live stream. Some people are like, oh well, why don't you mix it up more? It's like, well, the idea of mixing it up is helpful, but there is something to be said for having a little bit of consistency, to having an anchor piece to it, because then even if you're talking about different topics, you kind of know how certain people feel about certain things, so you can calibrate how you respond to it. It's like having a music critic who hates rock music. Well, if they review a rock album, then you already kind of know what you're going to be dealing with, so you can calibrate accordingly. Go, you know what? If he really hates that, maybe I'm going to like it, because I know the last 10 times he said this rock album was terrible, I actually loved it. So in some ways, it's actually still helpful, even though they say it's bad. It's like, no, I can calibrate to what you're saying normally, as opposed to just a random assortment of people who review it. It's like, all right, they said it's good, so is it good? I don't know. Just depends on how you usually normally respond to it, and I have no anchor point in which to establish how I'm supposed to respond to it as a person watching.
Yeah, and that's on the fly started with me and Ty just going, "Hey, dude, let's do a video about this because it's a topic du jour in the hobby or whatever, and give our 2 cents on it." Well, Ty and I have both feel personally that we get along really well on camera, and we differ enough on different things that we can have some back and forth, some friendly banter, so to speak, and then the audience reaction to Ty and I has been great. And so, unfortunately, on the fly is on hiatus just because Ty's dealing with having a new baby,
Mm-hmm.
and 6 other kids, and shuffling and doing a card business full time, and like his life has changed quite a bit to where doing a weekly show for On the Fly, which allowed for Hobby Think Tank to become okay. Hey, I still want to do this kind of weekly thing, beyond the Golden Age of Cardboard podcast, which
Mm-hmm.
is similar in that I think the anchor for Golden Age is me, and I bring on subject matter experts on whatever I'm talking about, a different set, a card, a player, or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
to add color to that. And I always think about shows as being a discussion, not an interview or a one-sided thing. To me, it's better when you kind of have as much close to 50-50 talking as possible, because it just makes it a lot more fun. And that certainly was true of On the Fly. And certain things I would talk more about, but then certain things Ty would talk more about. But overall, we felt we just had a good rapport together, and so that just worked for us, and we enjoyed doing it. That's
Mm-hmm.
another thing about hobby content creation. If you don't like it, why are you doing it? Like, if you don't enjoy doing it, I would hate to do a 4-hour live stream. You love it, so do it. And what's cool about that and what you do is, at least somebody can peek in, and okay, they're talking about something, I need to go take the trash out or whatever, and you can come back and you're still going to be there, and they can rewind it and watch. Oh, well, man, they're talking about something, let me go hear the beginning of that, and they can just rewind to it and watch
Mm-hmm.
that unfold, that discussion. So there's so many ways to skin the cat on the content creation side. We have been trying different ways that our audience will respond to, and trying to give good stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. For sure. And that's why I say like this topic in and of itself, and I've tried to kind of convey it this way, is that I'm a hobbyist first, I'm a collector first, but the content side of things is actually a hobby within a hobby for me. And in and of itself is interesting to me, because if all I did was just do showcases and just talk about the cards that I do, well, then I'd probably make 5 videos a year, because that doesn't seem very interesting to me. That doesn't offer me much personally. Why would I bother making videos on that? I already own the stuff. I bought it for a
Right.
reason. I know why. But discussing it and describing it and playing it into something else, into a different conversation, I think makes it more interesting. The live stream I enjoy because it's basically like, grab a beer, your drink of choice, sit down. You can sit there, and to your point, listen to as much or as little as you want. Participate in it as much as little you want to participate in it. I'm going to read the chat, so there's a
Right.
good chance that I'll acknowledge you. I laughed because when we were setting this up, I had shot you an email, and for whatever reason, the first one didn't go through. But when I saw you in the quick thing, I just said, "Hey, by the way, I sent you an email."
And I said, resend it.
Yeah,
And you did. And I
yeah,
got it. And
yeah.
here we are.
Yeah, but it's interactive. The point is that that's like
Yep.
real time interactivity there, and that's something that we tried to bring into it. Now, as far as it's concerned, with all these shows going on and all the experimentation happening, certain things have obviously worked. The Golden Age of Cardboard thing, you guys are at 100 episodes, that's gone on. The On the Fly, that circumstance is kind of beyond your control, but you like doing it. Are there, and some things have come and some things have go. Is there anything that you guys came up with that you thought was going to be like this really amazing idea, and for whatever reason, it just didn't quite click the way you would have expected it to?
Yeah. We thought that once we started building an audience, that content creators would come to us and want to try to build their brand by putting some content on the network.
Right.
And that just never happened at all, quite frankly. Not that people didn't appreciate what we were doing, but it was never like, dude, I want to be a part of that. That looks like something fun. I want to be a part of it. Now Hobby Palooza is a totally different animal, because pretty much I fill every time slot in about 30 minutes of going, would you like to be a part of it? Would you like to be a part of it? And it's like, yes, yes, yes. So that's a collaborative effort that's more, special. It's just a once a year. It's not like consistent to it. And so there's just seems to be a little bit more buy-in to that idea versus, hey, I want you to do a video a week on this. Because the original idea was, man, Mike will be on at 7 o'clock on Tuesdays, and at 8 o'clock is Carlos, and have a literally a schedule that people could, where ideally you have 4 or 5 days a week of, in the evening, you have 3 or 4 shows stacked on each other, and you're running them all with different content creators, similar to, you could have your TV guide open with, who's on Bench Clear tonight. That just never happened.
Now, with the stuff that you do have on there, and like to your point, you are a part owner of the network, and you guys have had some success. Like I said, Chasing Cardboard has been able to be a spinoff, and when I look at the subscriber count in and of itself, I think it's surpassed Bench Clear as
It
Chasing
has.
Cardboard individually, and it's
Oh,
done
yeah.
very well. So it's done very well on its own. It's not like Bench Clear is carrying it; it's actually surpassed that total and
Yep.
given you a different audience. To your point, this has always been something that I think has been a little bit of a topic of discussion for me conceptually. Is that I know a lot of folks in the space who have done well, built up big audiences and everything. They can get sponsors, they can do these things. But at the same time, I've always said the niche, unfortunately, for whatever reason, the audience is engaged, and you've tasted it when you guys have tried different little experiments. I mentioned the comments earlier. When you initially announced that you were going to do this thing, I went back and looked through some of the comments just yesterday, just to refresh myself. It wasn't universal love, Mike.
No.
For your cash grab, your money grab.
Well, it wasn't a money grab, honestly.
But I'm saying what the comments
Right.
was in terms of like, they're like, well, it's like, why aren't you doing your own thing? And you were explaining that it's like, I'm doing it over there. I'm doing the same thing over there. And that kind of a pushback. Same thing is also with the Chasing Cardboard thing. It's free. And we've got this other thing where if you want to see more of this stuff, the second we put a $sign on something, some people immediately recoil and go to like the strongest possible response to it. I've always thought that was interesting in this niche where I see other ones where it's not quite as a big a problem.
If you read the comments of that announcement where Ty announced a paywall on Chasing Cardboard, I mean, it's all over the map, right?
Yep.
It's from one end to the other of praise and awesomeness to you guys are the devil, everything in between. And the reality is Chasing Cardboard is a way different animal than me sitting and hitting play on my phone, record on my phone.
Yeah, from a production value standpoint, absolutely.
Absolutely. And so there's a lot more money to make Chasing Cardboard happen that's needed. And so I look at it as, hey, you get extra content and you get to support something you like. And if that's something that appeals to you and you want to be a part of that, great. If you don't, you'll get every episode that's normal, a normal episode, just like you would free now, because there is YouTube revenue from that, but as you probably know, it's, you're not going to, pay your mortgage with it. in this space, in sports cards. And I think that's just important to be transparent about that. Chasing Cardboard has sponsors. Bench Clear does not, so they're just, but again, Chasing Cardboard takes a lot. We got to travel and stay in hotels and rent cars. And, there's just a lot more that goes into Chasing Cardboard than, again, me and Ty hitting record on StreamYard or sitting here recording a video for Baseball Collector. Very different.
Sure. Now, kind of the reason I posed the question that way is that I also like to look at some of these other spaces, and when I look at them, as I'll see things like Twitch, because there'll be some stuff of that, and you can have people, and I'll use an example of one of the sub niches that I pay attention to. I pay attention to a lot of the professional wrestling, and I'll watch a lot of the podcasts that do that. So they'll do a live stream professional wrestling, and they'll go in there, and in the chat there'll be like a $50 $50 donation, $100 donation. So this person will make a couple of $1,000 just sitting there talking about professional wrestling, and people won't bat an eye. But it's like the Joker meme. Somebody on sports cars asks for $1 and everybody loses their mind. I kind of get a kick out of that.
Watch a Jab stream,
Yep.
Jab's family, and he'll make hundreds or thousands of dollars breaking 86 tops or something, and you're like, what? And it's not like he's asking for it either. It's kind of this weird thing. And then, yeah, you're right. If we do it,
you would get destroyed.
People vilify you for it, and it's like, you don't have to do it. We need the revenue. It's quite simple. Like, we need the money to be able to keep. If you want to keep seeing this, Ty's been funding Chasing Cardboard out of his own pocket. So it's not like that money has to come from somewhere. And the idea is that it can't, Ty's not an endless supply. He doesn't have a money tree in Idaho, on his acreage of ranches. But so it's, again, I don't get it. And some do it very successfully. If I do a live stream, I never get super chats, and I don't care. Like, that's not a big deal. You don't get a lot either, from what I see.
No, it's and that's the reason I pose the question is not asking for it. What I pose is, I've always thought it was interesting, the difference in the reaction that people have to it.
Right.
Because when somebody is actively courting it, that's one thing. When it's just because in the case of the example that I gave, they're not sitting there going, "Hey, hit super chats. Hey, do this." They're just kind of going through the course of their normal process, and in the course of that, people are like, "Hey, love the show, blah blah blah," and they're reacting accordingly. And they will acknowledge it, because obviously, if somebody's going to go through the trouble of donating even a couple of dollars, it's like, no, well, take a second and acknowledge what's there. But I've always found it funny. That's why I is kind of it's kind of fun and poking fun at it a little bit myself. I have a join button on my account, and I joke about it with people. I said to them, it's like, if you ever want to laugh, just click on it, and if you scroll through the little description, it's going to say tip jar. You get nothing,
Right.
and you get exactly what you pay for. Nothing. I'm not offering you anything. That's like, the purpose of it is not to be like, oh, I'm asking. It's like, I'm literally offering you nothing, and I'm also not asking you to push the button or do anything. And that's the thing. But in this genre, it's weird for people to get that, where in some of these other ones, they do it on their own without even any help.
Do you think it's because I've seen over the years the sports card content creating community, both viewers and creators, change in that, man, if you monetized your channel a few years ago, you were considered like, why? You don't love the hobby. You're monetized. You're making us whatever. Watch ads. Like, that was seen as the first step to hell, was, monetizing your channel. And I always thought, well, if YouTube will pay me, why shouldn't I turn on ads? You don't have to watch them. You're allowed to skip them most of the time. And so, and then again, any other channel that I watch on any other topic, I'm watching it. If I'm watching how to change the oil in my, car, I'm going to watch an ad, So that's part of the YouTube culture. Yet we think that the sports card industry should be so, pristine over here that we shouldn't do that. And it's like, look, it's coming out of their pocket, not yours, and why should you care? Well, now it's become, well, if you have a join or a subscription service at all, that you're also, now that's the second step to hell. It's just evolved. I've seen people have become more tolerant of it, but yet I still think there's this holding on to the old days of we just do baseball card videos because we love everybody and we just want to show our stuff. And it was everybody said, oh, it's so much different now. Well, yeah, no shit. Things change over time, and you can like it or not like it. You don't have to watch anything if you don't want to.
Mhm. Well,
And
that's the reason I'm posing the question. So the reason I'm posing the question to you is so kind of I wanted to talk through it with you a little bit, but really what it comes down to is this: what is it about this niche that makes it different in that regard? What is it about the mentality that people have when they're watching passively the content, where they feel a different? I'll position it this way: they feel a different kind of ownership to it, where they not only feel like it should exist, they feel like in some cases, not in all cases, but they almost feel like it should be of high quality. It should be like available consistently, but it should also be free. It's kind of the joke I make about people in the boxes. I want to be able to pull $200 worth of cards. I want the box to be $10, and I want it to always be available. Well, those things do not make sense together. You can have
right.
a couple of those things, but not all those things simultaneously because that's impossible. The math doesn't work.
And that's true on the content creation side. The math doesn't work. I don't know why the hobby's that way. I've never gotten that. Again, I don't make content to make money. I'm not upset that it provides $100, $200 a month to help me buy a couple more cards, and that's really what it is. I mean, baseball collectors like $150 a month, so it's not big money, but it's something. It's better than $0, and it does take time. I mean, I do content because I love doing it. I would do it if they didn't pay me, if I wasn't making any money on it. But I like the fact that they do, if that makes any sense. So the fact that people don't or just have a cow about it is fascinating. But I don't have an answer for you.
So righteous indignation in sports cards is apparently a thing, Mike. Right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of areas they hit righteous indignation on. It's always kind of fun for me to watch. So let me ask you this then, from the bench clear side of things. So is there an avenue? Is it a situation where it'll always kind of, even though there's been an evolution, to your point, is there a situation where it'll never be a viable thing? Could bench clear pose it just theoretically, if everything went the way you would want it to, you hit on enough hit shows, enough right combination mix, is there a scenario where bench clear would be a fully profitable venture in and of itself?
Well, bench clear is because there's
Okay.
not much to it.
Yeah. Right now
But
it's mostly costs being low, but I'm saying like, could it
yeah,
be a profitable venture if you actually ran enough shows to
not
fill it
likely.
up?
It's probably where it is. It is what it can be. I mean,
Okay.
it'll grow subscribers, but I think what a lot of people I don't know how many subscribers, 5,500 or whatever on Baseball Collector. A lot of those are dead, what I call dead subs. They're people that subscribed 6 years ago and simply don't consume content at all anymore and didn't take the time to unsub any of their channels. So how many active viewers do you have? I think that's more, and that's what's funny. You'll see a brand new person come on and they'll get a couple of shout outs in the community and they'll get to 300 subs and each video has 200 views, right? That's good participation from the audience that you have, at least from a subscriber base. But, I have however many subscribers I have and I get 1,000 views a video. So where's the other 80% of my subscribers? Why aren't they watching? Those are questions I ask myself. And bench clear is probably as big as it's going to be. Again, it might grow to 20,000 subs, but Ty and I are not actively pursuing that as a like, hey, let's build this thing to something really cool. If that happens, great, but that is not where all of our energy and vision and thoughts is in chasing cardboard right now.
Okay. No, that's kind of that kind of leads to the question I was going to say is so as far as that's concerned, chasing cardboard is the avenue, the one where the energy is going to go to, and that's its own thing. 2 point, it's got its own
Correct.
category. Let me ask you this then: out of the stuff that you've done in the time that you've done with it, I talked about stuff that you thought was going to happen and didn't work. Is there anything that kind of pleasantly surprised you? You kind of had this idea, you threw it out there and go, hey, what the heck, give it a shot, and it worked out maybe as well or even better than you thought it would.
Well, certainly chasing cardboard
Sure.
because we had no idea on that. That was really Matt's idea.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, man, we need to just do a show that's really well done or as well done as we can do it, kind of thing. I mean, it's usually either Matt and Ty or Matt and me and Ty or Matt, Ty, and Marcel. It's not like we have a crew. Matt's doing all of the filming, editing, lighting, sound, you name it, everything production wise. Matt is responsible for that.
Mhm.
And so I'll carry a light or a camera or whatever, but Matt's doing all of that. So it's super simple. And I hear about, Jeff Wilson might have a crew of 6, on any given shoot. And it's like, good grief, talk about expensive, right? So that's worked out really well. On the Fly was a pleasant surprise. Ty and I were just, hey, we just want to talk every week, and that was cruising in at a pretty good viewership every week. We had thousands of people watching that every week, which was pleasantly surprised. That I've always wondered what does it take to make a video in our space go kind of viral. And I would say if you get 15, 20, 25,000 views, that's a lot in our space, right? For a non, super content creator like Card Collector 2 or Jeff Wilson or Packer Fan 87 or whatever, these bigger channels that have a huge subscriber base to pull from. If I got 25,000 views on a video, that would be like, what was different? Why did that? And when Ty had his PSA shenanigans with the Trey Lance card, that video got 30, I think it's at 36,000 views. It's our most watched video ever on our channel on Bench Clear. It's like, well, why?
Well, I think though you've done a couple videos touching on this, and I've enjoyed walking around this theme. Is that people do love bringing out the pitchforks and torches. If you give them an avenue, I joke with folks when I do videos. I like to do some of the newsy videos, but I'll pick and choose. I don't like to do everything because not all of it interests me. Like
Right.
the whatnot thing, I didn't spend too much time on it because I didn't care about it. I don't do breaks. I've done a couple here and there, and I will probably do more again in the future, but here and there. It just depends on the situation. So I'm not worried about that stuff today. But if I do a PSA, an SGC, or a grading related one, and it's the same kind of video as I would do in any other news video or talking about a general hobby thing or a hobby theme, it will do 4 or 5 times as many views as the regular version. Why?
Yeah.
Because PSA is in the title, SGC is in the title. Good, bad, or indifferent. Doesn't matter whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. It will just spike the attention. Now, if it is something bad, well, then it's even better. You did the interview with the director from that sports card documentary. Well, I did a review on that thing very early on, and the director came in the comments, and then I responded to the director in the comments, and let's just say both those videos did very well.
Right.
I didn't go out of my way, to be clear. I joke with some buddies. It's like, look, I didn't go out of my way to antagonize. I said what I thought about the film, and I said why I thought about it in the film. It's like, no, I didn't think it was good. I didn't think it was good for these reasons. Now, he took offense to that, and then eventually blocked me on Instagram, which was funny. But I got a kick out of it. But I was like, I would never have made a follow-up video if you had just left it be. I was done.
Right. Yeah. I mean, people love the train wreck, right? And, other videos that I can think back to that were like when we broke on there was something we found out about and we did the first video about it.
Was it the distribution thing?
Yes. Thank you. We found out that GTS was getting cut out and some other, there's some other big distributors were getting eliminated by Fanatics. That's another good thing about this. One other positive thing that I would say has come out of Bench Clear and then Chasing Cardboard is I've gotten to meet people in the hobby that I would have never met from a corporate, kind of the people that know things, meeting people that run the guy that runs the Chantilly show. When I went to Chantilly, I got to meet him. Someone introduced me to him. He's like, oh man, I love Chasing Cardboard. He knew the show and was super nice. And I would have never gotten an opportunity to meet him without that, show to be able to make that connection. And so good guy to know, because now they're going to be running the national in a year or two. So, I don't know, just Ray Schulte and I don't know, just getting to meet these people has been kind of cool for a guy that loves the hobby. It's like, wow, now I'm kind of getting to rub elbows with some of these people that make decisions about the hobby that I don't. I'm just a guy that watches it and loves it and all that. So that's been a good thing to answer your previous question, I guess.
And we're not even talking about your close personal friend, Dr. Beckett. So like, and then you got that going for you.
Well, there is Jim, who has become a good friend, and really a lot of that happens off of, not publicly. He
Sure.
and I
Yeah.
just talk privately.
Yeah. Hmm.
I just have a lot of respect for him. Certainly, we all grew up giving him $4 a month to have his magazine, uh, and he's a super great guy. And I mean, the knowledge is just off the charts, right? So he rolls his eyes at me sometimes when I ask him questions. He's like, "Mike, you should know this," or whatever, and he'll tease me a little bit, but he is a really great guy, and I've enjoyed getting to know him. And yes, I would have never met him if not for Hobby Hotline.
Hmm.
Uh, so, and I actually got pre Hobby Hotline. Actually, he invited me out of the blue. I got an email from him. Hey, you want to come to this content creator event that I'm doing at the Dallas Card Show? I'm like,
Oh, the creative dinner. Yes. Hmm.
yeah. And I'm like, sure. Are you sure you sent that to the right email? I mean, and because it was Jeff Wilson and Rob Veras, and I'm like going, what am I doing in this room? And getting to meet those people has been pretty great. Even Dustin, personal or sports card dad, who did the YouTube Sports Card Hall of Fame mistake.
Well, he has an identity crisis problem, so this is only the beginning of his issues.
Good point. But actually, like all these people that I've met, regardless of their persona on their channel, are pretty down to earth. Jeff Wilson's a nice guy. I want to hate him because I don't like what he does.
Right.
But I can't. He's a nice guy. Like, he's super cordial, super nice, very kind of knows his stuff. Dustin knows his stuff, And so again, you may not see that in the 8 minutes or 12 minutes or whatever they're doing a video. That's what always pissed me off the most about content creation. And we kind of do this to ourselves. We have no one to blame but us. But when I do a video, you're seeing a sliver of me, right? And that's not all of me. That's not who I am necessarily. It's in the moment who I am, showing a card or whatever and talking about it, or disagreeing with whatever, or burning 2020 tops because I thought it was stupid that people were going nuts over it. I'm like, dude, it's series 1 base. Let's not go bananas, right? So I burned a hanger box and people went ballistic. But that doesn't mean I hate oh, you hate the hobby, or you're a dick, or you're a this or that. Like, dude, first of all, you don't know me. Second of all, I turned out to be right, by the way. But it's just like, come on, man. People take it a little bit too seriously. They think they know you. I try to be as transparent about who I am on my channel or any content that I do. I'm not fake. This is me. Sometimes I regret some things I do because, I mean, I sent that video to several of my friends. They hysterically died laughing at the card burning video, and they got it. They understood what I was doing, but they also know me on a much deeper level and know my kind of humor or lack thereof, and know my personality on a much deeper level than you get to see in little 8-minute segments or 10-minute segments. So, I don't like that, but I don't know you can't change it. People are going to think what they want to think. I've stopped caring since then, actually. So about 3 years now that I've really stopped caring what people think. I can't control it. I can just be me, and it is what it is.
I think that part's fair. And look, I can't complain about the video. That's the one that got me on a lot of radars once I got a chance to respond to that one. So I appreciate you providing
You're welcome.
the fuel for the content. So
You're welcome.
that's always good. In the corner, in the little logo, I always have the little logo. It says "Praise the Content God." So these days, I always appreciate. I worship at the altar of the content gods, and they've been good to me.
Yeah, you got to have something. So
Works out. But the thing is, that's why I always laugh, because I say, it's like, I'm not manufacturing something. I just sit back and I look around, and sometimes things will happen. In that case, to your point, I agree with you that we're only getting a sliver of what a person presents to us. And I actually did a video where I played around with that, where that was early on, where I just said, I basically had the camera and I had a bit of an upward angle, and it was just this wall here. But I said, well, you're seeing this wall. You have no idea what's on the other side of this camera. You have no idea what's to the left of the wall, to the right of the wall. You're only getting to see whatever. If I grab a camera and I take you outside, well, then maybe you're going to get a different vantage point. But it's the same place. It's still where I am. I've shot most of my videos in the same place, but I've shot a few in the living room, and it's just behind this wall. It's not far, but at the same time, it's going to be a different vantage point. It's like, oh, is that a different place? No, it's the same place. It's just behind this wall right here.
Right.
But the what people will perceive out of it is what they're going to take from it going forward with that. And a lot of and we've kind of walked around a lot of the idea of the different cliques and different groups. And you talked about the folks at that specific content creator dinner and how some of them are present themselves differently, maybe in person versus what their persona is. When you get a little bit more context, you see how they react to people, how they talk with people, how they, they're not operating in an 8-minute clip. They're just talking like normal people. But the problem is when you look at a lot of these different groups and cliques is that the perception kind of works into I'm just trying to think of the best way to phrase this. The perception is almost self-fulfilling because you see this and then you react to it and then you talk to other people that agree and then that's your group and that's the ones that you just say, hey, this is what it is. And you see it all the time, but that's why I've always thought it was very interesting, and I see it on the live stream also as well. And sometimes I kind of have to kind of play around with the fact that I don't know Jeff Wilson, so I'll use him as an example. I don't know him personally, but everything I've seen with him, he's fine. Do I enjoy his content? Not particularly. Is it well produced? I think so. I think it's very well produced. Is it useful? No. He's gotten some stuff flat out wrong. I made a video where I just explained how he completely screwed up a thing that was so obvious, and he did it within weeks of each other and completely screwed up the same piece of data.
I
And
saw
it's a
that
data
video.
tool. Yeah, it's a
Yep.
data tool. And it's like, it's the same card, the same piece of data. But you presented it in two different ways and contradicted yourself 180 degrees within a 7-day period. You have editors. You should be able to not get this one wrong. And
Right.
yet he did.
Yeah. So I, there's always going to be people you gravitate towards, and and you can't be best buds with everybody. There's just not enough time in the day. Because also what I think is not realized by some people that maybe consume content is like, I like to play golf and, go on vacations and do, travel and
And have a ranch.
have a ranch. Again, this is a sliver of my life. I enjoy doing it. I like doing it. It's certainly part of me. I mean, my room here is actually quite small. Everybody laughs and jokes with me all the time when they come over because they're like, it's tiny. I'm like, yes, it's tiny. But am I in a 6,000 square foot house or am I in a 1,200 square foot? Nobody knows about and this is about anybody that you're watching. You don't really know the rest of the story. Like you said, behind the wall, what's behind the wall. And it's not meant to create something fake, but when I've met other YouTubers at nationals or wherever, believe it or not, they're all pretty down to earth people. Like, most people are pretty great. And I haven't had any issues with them, especially once I meet them in person. Even people that might have given me crap about one thing or another over time, if we get to meet and sit down and have a beer and, chat a little bit, you find out people are just people. And we just happen to all like cards. And I bet we can find some common ground. So that's actually a cool part about it. When you meet people and you go, man, you're just like you are on your videos, in a good way. Like, you are who you are. You're that way now, and there's no cameras on and nobody around, and we're talking and just having a great time. I found that to be way more true than not true about content creators. They're pretty great. And I probably know as many of them as anybody, in some way, shape, or form. And they're all pretty great, I have to say.
That's fair. Now, do you think, so this is a couple of open-ended questions here, because it kind of plays into the same idea. It plays into the idea of the community thing. So the Hobby Palooza is one example of how that can play out, of how you can get to know some of these different folks. So I think there's an element of that. The clicks thing, we could actually talk about that at length, but I'll spare us for now. But we acknowledge that it's a real thing because you see it all the time. And
100%.
you're always going to see it. But I do think, though, to your point, and this is something that you could, something that could be its own discussion, is that you will also see the gatekeeping. You will also see the folks that, yes, they don't like what somebody does, but they then put that onto the person. The Jeff Wilson one's an easy one because a lot of folks are like, well, I don't like his stuff, therefore, he's bad. The Dustin thing, I know Dustin a little bit. I laughed because when he did one of his responses to it, he was acknowledging the panel where we were talking about his stuff, and it's like, and I'm officially his frenemy, so I take great pride in that. I like to think I'm a lot of people's frenemies. That's part of my charm. Uh, but the reality is, it just means that I'm going to critique what I think is worthy of critiquing. There were issues that I had with the way it was presented, and that's why a lot of where that discussion went. It wasn't like Dustin's a bad person, therefore. It was like this content wasn't presented in a way that I thought made sense, or it didn't present this topic that is a serious topic, maybe with the seriousness that it deserved, given what it is, because it's a real thing that some people do have to contend with. And but I don't take it personally when someone then in turn has their response to it as well, because in the comments section, if anybody goes and looks, I gave him a little Siskel and Ebert, I gave him a rating for it. I had some serious issues with background, the discrepancy between the pictures. I gave him like a 5.4 out of 10. Not his best effort. Not that great.
Fair enough.
But it's not a attack on the man, is the point that I'm trying to get at here. It's not an individual. It's not a personal thing. When I did the video where we were talking about that burning card thing, a lot of people had the pitchforks and torches out. I didn't, because I didn't know you from Adam, and I didn't care. I just thought you need to keep your day job as a comedian. But to your point, your buddies thought it was hilarious, and I said, well, that's probably not the best way to present it. And I kind of kept it fairly even keel. And then when we chatted the last time, your friends and my friends both came out of the exact same thing, saying, no, that was fair. It's like, well, my job isn't to kill you over here. We joke about it. It's like, I'm not out here to kill you. I don't have a problem with you personally. That's why I thought, like I said, your nomination video was fun. It's like, no, I have no issue with what you do. But if you say something that I think is a little out of pocket, well, then I'll say it's out of pocket.
Right.
And I think that's fair. And I am entitled to that opinion, and I'll happily discuss it with you anytime.
And I've never had, again, people are entitled to their opinions, and I just take a lot of them with a grain of salt. It is interesting to see when, somebody will do something and there will be defenders, right? You see where people stand pretty quickly. That's interesting to see people take sides, which I don't, again, when Dustin did his thing, you didn't hear anything out of me. And I texted with him about it. But I didn't say anything publicly about that because
outside of the video, I ridiculed him without mercy privately.
Right.
It was like, oh, you set yourself up for this one. Oh, you really did.
Yeah. And he recognizes that, but dude, we're all entitled to go, yeah, I probably shouldn't have done that. Not everything hits home, right, with everybody, with your entire audience. And to your thing, I mean, we've talked about the community, right? I've heard you talk about this before.
Yeah.
The community is really not this. It's this circle and this circle and this circle. And sometimes they come into contact with each other and interact. Like the National, you'll see guys from certain just friend groups, right? I call them, circles of people that all kind of get along, and they'll interact a lot. Or there's times even when circles interact, just period, over the course of a year or so, people doing different things. I still only have 6 or 7 guys that I really consider like my inner circle of people that I talk to about everything within the hobby. And then I have the next concentric circle of people I talk to every once in a while, and then the next one, and the next one, right? People I'll only see once a year at the National, but we'll be perfectly fine with each other, shaking hands and, hey, how you doing? Because you just don't have, there's no time. You can't do it. There's 4 or 5 guys I talk to every day about the hobby. That's all I have time for. I've got a job and kids and life. And, I don't have time to answer 100 texts today. Luckily I don't have to do that, and I don't want to do that. And nobody should expect that, so I don't know. That's okay that the community is really this, a bunch of inner circles within the bigger circle of the community. Nothing wrong with that. That's actually quite normal.
And I think to your point, there'll be a lot more of that. I think different people. But that's the reason why I say that I try not to, and I always try to be firm but fair. If something I don't like, I'll just say I don't like it, and I'll say why I don't like it. And I always thought that was a fair way to approach it. But I'll say it to the person's face. I'll say it virtually. I'll say it wherever I want. But at the same time, it's like, it's not personal. That's the reason why I very clearly specify that piece, because there are too many future mutual friends and acquaintances. It'd be very complicated if you just went out of your way to be like, oh, I'm just going to trash this guy. It's like, well, cool. You kind of make your point is that uh, on my live stream, I'll have Andy. She playing with refractors. Come on, and we'll hang out and chat. And I like Andy. He's a great guy. Hobby Palooza thing. We had there was a good chuckle when the Hobby Palooza thing. I wasn't aware I was going to be in a Hobby Palooza. Andy came to me at the last possible second the night before and said, "Hey, would you come on and do this?" And I didn't realize what was going to follow us after. So I had fun with that too. Uh, but that's another individual that I have my personal issues with. But that's separate from I can still have a tongue-in-cheek, kind of a lighthearted way of poking fun at it. But I'm not going to spend all my time beating this person up, even though, like I said, I have my issues with it. But we can have some fun, poke fun at it, and then move on and talk about other things that I think are more interesting to most folks. But you can
And
do
then
both.
Andy is like a brother to me,
Mm-hmm.
so he'll be here in my house in 2 days. So that's where I'm saying, to use the Ghostbusters colloquialism, the streams cross a lot in this hobby, in this community. That's actually one of the more appealing things about it, is that the streams can cross, that there's not these barriers, that these Chinese walls that, oh, don't go over there. Cause it's not like you go into the middle school cafeteria and you got the jocks over here and the this over here, the cheerleaders are over here. And dude, everybody, when you go to these community events, everybody's together. I'm talking to football guys and these guys and whatever. And that can happen in this community. It doesn't mean that when you leave, you don't go back to your place of origin, so to speak, and you're talking with your peeps again. That certainly happens, no doubt. So they can coexist, I think, very nicely, and do most of the time.
Well, most of the time, it's a very important caveat that you added on there. Good on you adding it on at the end. Let me then kind of ask you a couple of things that'll play into this, and we'll start winding her down a little bit here.
Okay.
And by the way, thank you for joining me, and I appreciate you coming on.
Yep.
So let's talk about. We did have the YouTube Sports Card Hall of Fame coming up. That was one of your original brainchilds there. I talked about it a little bit, where I think part of the original issue that it had with it was just a branding issue. Hall of Fame has a certain connotation; it's a little bit tricky, but you do have a love affair with the Hall of Fame thing. So just a question. Obviously, hindsight is 2020, and Jake right now, to be blunt, is doing a great job. I think he's just doing a phenomenal job with it. I think the website thing is neat. It gives me yet another avenue with which to appeal for the impeachment of Bob Lewis. So frankly, I'm in favor of that. I think that's fantastic. Like I needed more, but like I think it's great that I have
Right.
another way. And again, Bob, friend of the channel, and the guy I'll bring on so that I can get more material to impeach him. So that I think that's great. And by the way, you can all vote him back in, and I'll just impeach him again, and we'll just do this every year. I think it's fantastic. I think we should just do that. But regardless, the concept itself does have some merit because I said even during this year, even though like I said, and I said it to Jake as well. Even though, like I said, I think it's silly, I'll still play along because some channels do take the time to do the nomination thing, and I think that's nice. And as appreciation to them for doing that, I feel it is. I can play along, and that's the way I phrase it. It's like, look, I'll play along. Why not? Like, it's not hurting me. It's not causing me any issues, so I can participate in that regard. But I definitely got subscriptions from that. Like, so it's one of those things. Like, even my channel's not as small as some of these other channels, and even still, some people learned of the channel based on people not only nominating but also explaining why. And
Right.
I think that was a big thing, and that's where I do think there is some value. I think that's where that is the opportunity for people to present it. I do. I think the branding thing would have been an interesting thing if it had played out a little differently. I don't know how much different it would have been. But in retrospect, would you have played out exactly the same way, knowing what you know now, or would you have tweaked it slightly from your original concept?
I think it was doomed from the beginning from a branding standpoint because people, again, I tried to explain this in a recent video where I talked about why I did it. But there were, even when I started and you started years ago and whatever, there were channels that had done content for 5 or 6 years, which is an eternity in this space, and then stopped doing content. I think Puff Bear 359, I think Thundering 24, some guys that kind of laid the groundwork for a lot of this. Squeepa 21. There's just, I can name them, a bunch of them that were way before me.
Mm-hmm.
Dave Archer would know all of them.
Your best friend, your best friend of the hobby.
But man, we are tight as you can imagine.
Much love, much love.
And I have no problem with Dave. Like, I don't know him, so I have no problem with him.
No, like you see, when you brought him up, I just had to have some fun because, like I
I
said,
agree.
we talked about this before, and like I said, Dave will have no issue with that. It's like it's kind of fun for me. I get to kind of sit back. I'm certainly not Switzerland. I have a lot of fun with it, but it's like, no, it is what it is, y'all. It'll be fun. We'll have a good time when the time is right.
But he, he'll know, he feels the same way about it. And
Mhm.
my goal in the beginning was these old channels that I don't even know that exist,
Mhm.
nominate them, right? Go out and tell me about these channels that I don't even know about that have been doing this since dinosaurs roamed the earth, and tell me how that's the channels the intent to recognize.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, it turned into everybody nominating their buddies.
Mhm.
I got elected the first year for zero reason, quite frankly. I mean, I wouldn't have put myself in that. And then the next year, it got even worse. I did a video where I criticized people for that and got lambasted for that. Like, oh, he's telling us how to vote and this and that. I'm like, this
You
is a
gotta
Hall
stop
of
being
Fame.
authoritarian. You gotta stop being authoritarian, Mike.
I
That's your
know.
problem. You gotta
I
stop
know.
that.
The idea of Hall of Fame is you don't get in the Hall of Fame when you're still playing. You get in the Hall of Fame when you're retired, right? And after you've been doing it and have this body of work to look back on and go, oh my gosh, he did this over his career. He deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
Mhm.
So that was the general concept initially, and and yes, I'm a big baseball Hall of Fame
Mhm.
aficionado. So there's no question that played into it. Um, but it turned into, like, even now people don't nominate channels that simply don't make content anymore, even no matter how great they are or
Mhm.
were. And I don't know that I necessarily agree with that. It's like, well, so I'll hear a nomination video. Oh, I was going to nominate this person, but they don't make content anymore, so I took them off my ballot this year. I'm like, well, why should that matter? Like, what does that have to do with it? Shouldn't it? Isn't it? Were they a great channel for an extended period of time that might have met some criteria? And if the answer is if they were still creating content, I would nominate them. Is the only reason you're not nominating them? I would argue that doesn't make any. I would say that doesn't make any sense to me. Because it's meant to honor, if it's a Hall of Fame, I don't know. Would I do it different? I guess that was your original question,
That's
wasn't
basically, yeah.
it? I don't know. Tell me a better name, and should I have called it the YouTube shout out special? I don't. I mean, I don't
I
know.
think I think there was actually a commenter who had a not bad idea. It's something that I would have probably workshopped a little bit, but they basically call it like a community choice awards or community recognition. The idea being that you're talking about channels that you enjoy or appreciate for whatever criteria that is, and then it's kind of an open-ended thing. It doesn't have the connotation of Hall of Fame. It's just saying like, hey, these channels are really good, and then it could be new or old, and it wouldn't really matter at that point. It's just like, hey, I think these guys are awesome, and this is why.
Yeah, I think like an all-star game type of
That
idea.
was another pitch that I heard somebody make. Yeah.
All-star. I've heard that, and I think that's not terrible.
Yep.
Or like annual awards, like MVP, Rookie of the Year. Think of your thing, Comeback Player of the Year, somebody that stopped doing videos and started doing them again, and man, it's awesome. Like you could do that kind of thing, and it would
Mhm.
be certainly less um,
Contentious.
contentious for sure.
Mhm.
Uh, Instead of calling it a Hall of Fame, all of those are fair. I can't put the genie back in the bottle now,
Yeah.
so
No, it's more of a hypothetical exercise. I was just curious since it was original concept. Now we have a little bit of body work. We've seen how this has played out to this point, and like I said, for me, I'm at the point where it's like, no, I'll play along, sure. Like I said, it doesn't hurt me in any way, shape, or form. So like, fine.
I'm shocked we just did the 6th year of it. Quite frankly,
Mhm.
shocked that it's lasted this. I thought it would be a 1 or 2 year thing, and then it would just kind of die off. But it gets to January, and when I was running it, it was, man, are you doing it again? Well, I guess,
And
sure,
this year was a record turnout, I think.
it was.
Yeah.
And again, kudos to Jake.
Hmm.
When I was like, okay, I think I've run my course with this, I don't think I can take it any further. And if I made the changes that I think needed to be made, that Jake ultimately made, uh, on his own decisions, by the way, I said, look, you're in charge. Like, you don't need my approval. You can do whatever you want. It's your baby now. He he made some smart changes. I think if I would have done that, it would have been seen as, oh, now you're changing the rules because of whatever, pick your reason. And it would have been Mike doing it for self-serving reasons. Well, no, now it's Jake's thing. And if you get mad at Jake, then you have a problem with yourself. Because he's just not polarizing at all, honestly. So that's, yeah, I think if somebody did like an all-star team or a whatever, I think that'd be a great idea. If somebody wanted to do like an annual channels of the year, I don't know. There's a lot of ways to skin that cat. I don't care. I think that'd be cool, actually.
Yeah. I think it's fair. But like I said, I wanted to kind of broach that topic because I thought it'd be interesting to discuss it because it is content. Like at the end of the day, it is related to an element of thinking about content, the way people react to it. I thought this year there was a lot of good ballots that did at least take some time to explain why, rather than just give me a list. Just like, can you tell me why? Like, give me a little anything. Just a little explanation. I think goes a long way because it helps helpful if we don't know who they are.
Some of them were pretty creative too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I felt a lot of that, and I thought that was really well done.
Yeah, some of them were good. And I think, again, as the space continues to grow, which this space is growing, it's never going to be, a huge thing on YouTube. But as more and more people become aware of it, I know I have people that I know that say, I can't wait to vote next year because I'll be eligible to vote, newer channels. And I'm like, well, awesome, so people do enjoy it for the most part. I don't think there weren't any controversy. No, nobody's bitching this year. I look at the 5 channels that got in. I'm like, yeah, I love them all. So I think I voted for 4 of the 5 that got in.
Mm-hmm.
So ultimately, and I should have voted for Lou Rock. He was on my you took Lou Rock's spot, just so you know. You
deservedly so. Like Lou Rock doesn't need more help. He was number 1 anyway. He's fine.
He was number 1.
Yeah.
I didn't even vote for the number 1 vote getter. Go figure. But yeah, it's kind of on its own now, or at least it's in Jake's hands. I'm glad to see that people still enjoy doing it. And you hear people at the beginning say why they like it. Mm-hmm. And that means like why it's important to them, because I get to do this or that, or whatever their reasonings are. And that always makes me smile a little bit because at least they have a reason. They're not just doing it out of contempt. I knew there are a few people that do it just because they're pissed off about it. Mm-hmm. And they want to make a point. And that's okay too. They're participating.
It's a protest vote. Yeah.
Yeah. That's okay.
Yeah.
Count them all. We count them all.
And it's valid. So let me take you out on 1 or 2 quick ones, kind of more rapid fire-ish. You did make a video where you talked about, and I kind of agreed with the general sentiment of it, is that collectors do hold a certain amount of responsibility. Speaking specifically about PSA, why they're number 1, etc., and you're wearing an SGC hat, so I think this plays well in this question. Part of why you have so many PSA slabs is that you're kind of in the ecosystem, so to speak. The way I would put it is you're in the ecosystem. But here's the question, what it comes down to.
Deep into the ecosystem.
Yeah. Is the set registry thing going to be a bit of a problem? Because I'll give quick my insight. I'm good buddies with a bulk submitter here in Canada who does a lot of good business with PSA. And for the most part, they've been good for me. That's why I say, like, I never discount somebody who had a bad experience because I know tons of people have had horrific experiences with it. My experiences haven't been a problem. I haven't had any issue, but that doesn't mean that other people don't because I see it and I can see it all the time, no problem. But at the same time, the discrepancy between them, I've made videos where I've specifically said that having a discrepancy is not necessarily a bad thing because it creates an opportunity. And what I mean by that is, say you want to find a quality card, let's use vintage because that's a good, easy example. You want to find a quality card, you can go grab it in a slab in that tuxedo and you can probably get a little bit of a discount. As a collector, this is good. I don't want you to be equal. Like that doesn't benefit me in any way. It's actually beneficial to have, I don't care really which one of you is number 1. I would then go look at the one that's number 2 that's a good value. In this case, having PSA there is great because it allows the SGC slab to potentially be an interesting value proposition. So to me, as a collector, that's a win. But I don't think most people look at it that way. They just complain that PSA is number 1, etc., blah, 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 by volume. But a lot of that's based on the back of modern, which makes a lot of sense. My point about the set registry, though, and it plays into kind of what you do with a lot of the different collections you do, some of them, is that the set registry has been a very powerful engine, and I feel like it's been de-emphasized. And something I've noticed is that other than a special or 2, I don't think that set registry thing's coming. I kept waiting and kept hearing about it, but I was like, I'm not sure. And kind of just, do you have any thoughts on that? Is like, I don't even know if that's going to necessarily be to SGC's benefit, because it's not like it's their price. They're not offering $10 grading either. So I don't think. So who's there for the set registry equivalent guys who want to finish their set in $10-ish grading?
Well, the ironic thing is you don't need the PSA set registry to complete a set. You can
Yeah.
certainly do it completely
Yeah.
outside of
You can do it outside of grading, like to finish a set. Like that part doesn't
course.
matter. Yeah.
Um, it's fun, mildly competitive, although you're competing with a bunch of people you have no idea who they are because they have username, Joe Bob Smith 2021 or whatever, and I don't know who that is. From talking to Peter at SGC, they're not going to do a set registry. They have no incentive to do it. It's a lot of money to build that infrastructure, and they don't feel like that's a game changer for them. To me, a universal set registry is the ultimate answer. But you're talking, I've had preliminary talks with some people about it just from a business venture standpoint. You're talking several $1,000,000 to build that.
I've seen people who pitch this who don't seem to think there's a cost.
Right.
And also, by the way, just to be clear, like I said, I sometimes get accused, just to be clear on this, I sometimes get accused of saying like, well, all you do is criticize and don't offer solutions. Like, well, first of all, that's not a problem I feel like I need to solve because I don't care about it.
Right.
That's number one. I'm just being transparent. But number two, I can see the cost portion of it. And number three, okay, question. What's an SGC 9.5 compared to a PSA 9 compared to a PSA 10?
Right.
There are logistical problems. And by the way, BGS, let's say you include BGS in there. What about subgrades? Like, for people that are being competitive, those decimal points are kind of important.
Yeah.
And somebody has to figure out that translation, and it's not apples to apples.
And no matter how you figure that translation out, you're going to piss people off because they are going to disagree with you and some segment. And so you're right. Because we don't have a universal grading system, it'd be very difficult to have a universal set registry that would put that together. But SGC has no plans on doing that. It's too cost prohibitive. Not cost prohibitive. It's cost pointless, really. It doesn't move the needle. If you ask me who the best grading company is, top to bottom, start to finish, it's SGC. And it's not even close. If from a customer service, turnaround times, accuracy and consistency of grading, etc. We did a video where I talked about what makes a perfect grading company. SGC is as close as you can get to that. The problem is PSA has such a deep history. There's a perceived value to a PSA slab versus an SGC slab on a lot of things. Again, you put a PSA 5 take a 54 tops Jackie Robinson, take a PSA 5, a SGC 5, they're going to look pretty similar, right? In terms of how they grade a card. So you're getting the same quality of card, and you're just, like you said, you're getting a discount for SGC. I've got my first SGC submission ever is over here. I'm waiting to get a few more cards to make it make more sense. But I have no issues with SGC. I am deep. I mean, we're talking 15 years deep into the ecosystem of PSA. And I'm simply unwilling to just, honestly, if it would take SGC going, all right, Mike, we'll grade all your cards for $1, and I still would think about it. I'd still be like, really? Do I really want to go through that, and deal with that? And then it'd still be $4 or $5 grand because that's how many PSA slabs I have. So it's like, God, do I really need to, when I could just go buy a new card? Like, how great of a card could I buy for $4 or $5 grand, for crying out loud? I'd become a little more slab agnostic, but I still gravitate towards PSA, no question. I don't search for SGC when I'm looking for a vintage card. I don't go, XYZ year, player name, brand, SGC. It's always PSA. I want to look there first. It's more at shows or in person. If I see a card, I need that card. Oh, it's an SGC. Oh, it's okay. I bought a 54 tops or 54 Bowman Ted Williams in an SGC slab. It looked great. I was like, I can't pass this up. And the price was great. So I bought it. even though I prefer it in a PSA slab. There is something about consistency. I don't like the Frankenstein collection. I know plenty of collectors that don't care.
Are you suggesting collectors and no CD is a thing?
Yes,
Mm.
it's very much a thing.
Mm.
If you saw the people that come over here are like, holy crap, this is way more organized than I thought it would. It's way more organized than my collection. And my answer is, I don't know how to do it any other way. It would be a mess. I wouldn't be able to find anything, but you could go, Mike, show me a this or that. I can walk you right to it if I have it, because I don't want it to turn into chaos. I want it to, and it's easier. It's the old adage, it's easier to keep your room clean when you're a kid than clean it when it's a mess already. I like to keep the room clean. And so cards I got today are going to go into their place as soon as we're done with this stream, or it'll drive me nuts. They won't sit here on this desk overnight. It'll drive me bananas. And I like the consistency of having the same slabs. There's a lot to that. If I could start over, I would choose SGC.
Fair.
Regardless of the registry. But I can't start over. I can't rewind that clock. And so I feel like I'm stuck. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I chose that a long time ago, and I'm choosing not to have a Frankenstein collection. So yeah, it's a pickle for sure.
No, that's fair enough. Fair enough. So I'll get you out on this one. And I won't wait quite long before I invite you back, since it's one of your other favorite topics, not Hall of Fame related. The National is coming up. We're in beginning of February now. Have you already started a little countdown, or what's going on there? Not yet?
No, but there are certainly private discussions happening with, are you going? Are you not going? Where
So
are you
when is it
staying?
real for you? Just out of curiosity. So when is when the National is, but at the same
Sure.
time, so when is it real for you? Not even the basic planning of it, because some of it, a lot of us have had to kind of do it in advance. So when are you feeling like it's in striking range?
Mayish, I'll start getting excited because like right now I'm going to the Burbank show on Thursday, Andy and I, and so
And you can submit all your cards in, from what I understand, on social media, on-site tag grading, so you can get all your entire collection done in tag. Just run it through; it'll be amazing. You can
actually I
find out what it
can't
is on
because
1,000.
they don't grade vintage, so I can't do that.
Oh, that's darn. That's unfortunate.
It is. I
Such
would
a shame.
totally do that, by the way.
Yes.
But I had let's take tag. Good for them for doing what they're doing. There you go. I mean, it's your coaster. That's hilarious. Jeremy Lee would be so proud right now.
It's one of my favorite things in my live stream. I have the fanciest coaster in the hobby. Not only is it a tag slab, it's a 6.5 Zach Wilson green prism.
So, at the National this last year, I met a gentleman. His name's Al. His channel's called Iconic Baseball.
Okay, I actually think I follow him. Yes.
So I'd never met him. In fact, I'd never heard of his channel. But I sat there and talked with him. He was there with his wife. They were at the get together, and he was using PSA slabs as coasters.
Nice.
And I was like, "What are you doing?" And obviously, it's not hurting the card, so it's really not that big a deal. But it was hilarious, and it was like a Nolan Ryan that I happened to need for my Nolan Ryan run. A pretty cool Mike Piazza insert, and they were 8s or whatever.
Okay.
And he's like, "Well, these are worthless," and I'm like, "I'll take them if you don't like." I'd love them in my collection, And he gave them to me, and I do love them in my collection. I'm glad I have them. So it's just this funny difference of opinion on, well, if it's not a 10, it's trash. Well, that to me is tragic that people feel that way. I don't blame them. They can feel that way. They're allowed to feel that way. I just disagree. I am happy with a near mint card or a mint card, right? So sorry, I forgot what your question. I got off. You got me. Your coaster thing totally threw me off with the tag because.
But Mike, now you understand how the 4-hour live stream works.
Oh my God.
I have a topic. My job as the host is I'll bring us back when the moment is right. But
I appreciate that.
I enjoy where that's why I say it's a great talking piece. It's a fantastic talking piece.
I love it. But there's a place for tag grading in the hobby. It's just not with Mike Moynihan.
It's my wonderful coaster. Absolutely.
Yeah, they're great coasters. No, good, they won't be around in 5 years is my prediction. But
I appreciate that you're bringing the prediction. Look, like I said, I joke with folks, but I try to be transparent. I have a personal issue with a couple of people associated to it, but also with the way they came into the market and the way they decided to approach their advertising. If they had come into it just with a little bit more humility, and ironic coming from me, I understand the irony here. But if they had come at it with like, no, like we're just doing our thing. Here's the product. We'd love for you to check it out, and that had been kind of the approach from the beginning. Honestly, I'd still be skeptical, but I wouldn't give them as much of a hard time as I do. They earned my ire with the approach they took to this. And then the rest of it, well, at this point, it's just now it's a shtick for the live stream. Now, any excuse to give them a hard time is a great excuse for me.
fair enough. Okay, take me back to wherever we were, Mr.
Yeah.
Ho.
So what I was getting at is we got out of the ecosystem conversation. I was talking about the national and when
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
excitement builds. When is the
Right.
moment when it's starting to come into it?
Yeah, May-ish, because we'll start planning Hobby Palooza in
Mhm.
May. There will be a 2023 version of that, and hopefully Andy will invite you back. Maybe I'll just give you your own hour, Carlos. I know to constrain you, I know is very, you don't like that.
I did a segment on my year end with Victor where he tried to come. I was like, Victor, I'll show you what that's going to look like. Hour 1, hour 2, hour 3, and hour 4, and then hour 5 recapping hours 1 through 4.
So there'll be that. That'll start getting me, kind of excited and thinking about it. But again, I've got the Burbank show. I'm always just thinking about what's next, and that won't be the what's next for.
What's the Dallas one after that? What's the next Dallas one?
March.
Okay, gotcha. They're about one every 2 months, still, right?
They're every other month, which I don't, I don't like that it's that often. I mean, I'm of the why wouldn't they do it if they can get away with it and have the excitement about it, the enthusiasm about it. But I think there's going to be some shows that end up not making it. I do think one thing about shows that I think has been cool over the last couple of years is, to me, a show experience is unique and awesome. And I think that's become more like, wow, shows are really great. People have rediscovered that. And I think that's pretty cool. Product of what's happened in the growth of the hobby. And people have rediscovered the awesomeness of going to a card show, not just for the cards, but the hanging out with other people and seeing your friends. And I mean, we have as much fun just hanging out as we do looking at cards, but that's been cool. And a lot of people have that now, and that's neat. So then there's Dallas, and then, we've got several Chasing Cardboard shoots that we're going to be flying to, and we've got collections lined up to look at and things. So there's plenty of what's next. When that gets to what's next, it'll be really exciting.
Sounds good. So let's wonder. Go ahead.
Are you going to the National?
So right now I have a refundable hotel ticket to the Lowe's in Chicago. I'll put it like that.
Okay.
I already have Rick, Vintage Oddball Cards, who's already committed to hanging out with us for dinner and possibly buying beverages. So I've been offered enough free beer, Mike, that I'm easy to bribe. That's all I'm saying. I'm easy to bribe when it comes to that. We'll see if we can figure it out. For me, it's a very expensive vacation. I'm very practical about this. I don't have unlimited funds. I don't have a money tree, so I have to be for me to fly out here to go over there. The hotel, I already looked at what it's going to cost me. I'm like, I better start setting some money aside. So my intention is to go there. That is my tentative answer. I've got things in place to make that happen.
And you went in.
I've never been. I have never been to the National.
Well then, let me also throw out a bribe of also buying you a beer or two at the National. Should I see you there?
There we go.
You're going to pile up enough beers. You're going to be just wasted the whole time.
I just have to bring my mind back to my university days, and I think we can make it work. I think I used to be able to hold the odd beverage. So we'll see. Like either way, it's going to be me enjoying myself anyway, and that's the idea. It's going to be a vacation from that perspective of it. One thing I'd like to do down the road is I would like to attend one of the Dallas shows, but that's going to require planning, and I don't think that's necessarily going to be this year because I think the National is going to be expensive enough of a trip,
right?
With a lot of the other elements to it, because I would like to, heaven forbid, buy a card while I'm there. What a ridiculous.
There are still shows that the Philly show I'd love to go to, the Strongsville show.
I've heard good things about that one. Yeah.
There are just some shows that like, man, my son just graduated from college. My daughter graduates in May. Um, like things are getting a little bit less
Mhm.
financially stressful.
Mhm.
And okay, maybe I can, and just time too, they're all starting their lives and I'm less obligated to be around for certain things. And okay, maybe I'll go to Strongsville and it's really allowed me to do chasing cardboard the way I have. And obviously my wife is nominated for sainthood for letting me do what I do already.
Mhm.
But yeah, there's some cool stuff. I think Dallas it's that it became the destination show,
Mhm.
right? Back, it was kind of the first one to restart. It was super popular. There's a lot of great dealers there. It's a lot of modern. But again, isn't a show an experience? And yes, you want to try to find some cards, but
Mhm.
going to a show is more about an experience. And if you've never been to Dallas, period, you go to a Stars game while you're here. You could make it where, okay, I'm doing a lot more than just going to a card show and have a lot of fun with it.
No, I agree. And part of the reason why is number one, I do like a lot of the things that I see out of the Dallas show. The other reason, honestly, is that I have a few buddies who are down by Texas Way, but one of them actually found a Mike Medano, Jamie Benn card at the Dallas show. It was the one hockey card probably in the building, and I was furiously angry because considering how many thousands I have, I was like, well, that's one I actually wanted. You found the one? Fantastic. And he told me what he paid for. It's like, I hate you.
Right?
You're worthless. You found the one. You found the one card I want in that building. So you would think in Dallas there would be more Dallas Stars, but my understanding is it's very sparse pick. Although I know a lot of great collectors that are down there. It's like they're just obviously not setting up at the show or obviously not dropping it off. But
Right.
it's there. That stuff is somewhere in that state and somewhere in that city.
Yep. It's a good show to come to. And again, you'd get to meet a lot of different people that otherwise you may not meet. But beyond the national, if you go to the national, you meet everybody because even Bob Lewis goes to the national. So
I was gonna say like I might have to pitch the impeachment in person.
we're
That
there.
might have to be what happens. Like I'm
You
just
can
saying.
hold court at the YouTube get together and just go to town on Bob Lewis.
I'll tell you. I'll tell you why we have to right an egregious wrong. We'll fix this. It's not too late. We can fix this as a people. Just
So, are
trust me.
you excited about going to the national? Does that
God no.
excite you at all?
God no. I hate traveling. I am. I will be more. I will be more enthused when I'm physically in the space. But I'm very comfortable. I'll just put it this way. I've been very comfortable in my collecting experience. I was very comfortable for many years doing it in solitude. This YouTube thing has been very interesting for me. I will say I know a lot. When I go to a show locally, people recognize me, which is interesting. Very strange for me, to be honest.
Yeah.
And obviously, I know a lot of folks stateside who are participating in the YouTube channel. So it's been very interesting for me. But I'm not a guy who feels like I'm not a guy who needs it. It's not something I need. Do I enjoy it for what it is? Yes. Am I happy to Will I be happy to sit down and have that beer? Yes. I will happily take that free beer from you. The point is that, but I don't need it. So I've never, as years have gone by, I'm less and less interested in the national. It's more like, all right, let's do this thing at least once. I'll make it happen. We'll plan it out. This year will be interesting because this year will be my 40th birthday, just before the national. So I'm a July. July is my birthday. So by the time we get to the national, I will have had my 40th birthday already. So like, all right, may as well. This seems like as good a year as any if we're going to do it. So we'll plan it out. But no, going to the big show is as interesting as it would be. Even meeting all the people, that's cool. But it is a very expensive trip, Mike. Like I'm not like my brain does not get past that fact. I'm like, do I need to pay for this? I don't. But I'll do it this time because I think it'll be interesting. I don't know if that's going to be a regular thing going forward afterwards though.
I wonder how different, like, for example, going to LA, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
My plane ticket was $198 round trip.
Mm-hmm.
I'm staying with Josh. We're getting a hotel one night, but we're the three of us are sharing it.
Sure.
So this trip might cost me beyond card budget, right? Just
Sure.
travel expenses, $300 or $400. Let's say 500 just for meals or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I got to eat here either way, right? So the national, if you do it where you're bunking with other, staying with other guys, you can split the cost and beyond the plane ticket, which now, like, I was looking at Chicago and I was like, oh hell no, I'm not booking my flight yet, because it's pricey. It's $500-$600 just for the plane ticket. But all in, you're talking $1,000, $1,200 probably, with hotel. Again, if you do it, there's 6 of us staying in a room together, so, or in a suite thing together. So
Yeah. Well, there's definitely ways to do it, Mike. But I'll just be like I said, going back to what I said earlier about not having a problem with solitude. It's like, no, I will pay extra to have the room for myself.
fair
It's
enough.
like I like having my space. That I joke with Victor because Victor apparently is of the bro hugs, and I'm like, no, you keep your bro hug to yourself, sir. You keep that. You keep that to. You know what? As far as I'm concerned, the COVID protocol is still in place. 6 feet.
So
6 feet.
so no tip to tip for you at all, for
No, no,
sure.
thank you. There'll be none of
Okay.
that for me. No,
All right.
I'll pass on that. Like I said, it's like y'all are trying to make it less appealing. like, look, fist bump is cool, man. Just go with that. It's fine.
You don't want to meet Eric then, because he will bear hug your ass.
Like that's what I'm
And
saying. Like, look, I am willing to pay for whatever assault charges come out of this thing. Like, I'm going to deal with whoever I need to deal with. Like, keep your distance.
you're gonna have your attorney on retainer. Like,
I
okay,
might just have to.
we're gonna have some. Oh, that's hilarious.
That's what I'm saying. Like, think of how expensive this is going to be. Like, in
So
retainer
then,
fees.
yes, yours will be more expensive than it takes for the average person, and that's honestly a barrier for a lot of people to go to the national.
It is. It's
because
not cheap. It's not
it's
cheap.
not cheap, but if you can plan for it and all that, and there are people that just I don't know, want to do more than they probably even need to, like fancy dinners and all. Like, yeah, I want to go to Gibson's one night like everybody else, but
I think one thing that a few of us have discussed is that I would like to attend a baseball game while we're in town. So if I think it's the White Sox, based on the scheduling, if memory serves me, I think it's the White Sox and not the Cubs. I think the Cubs are out of town. But I think if it's possible to attend a White Sox game, I think that would be fun, and that's something that we'll have to see if we can figure it out if it's something that comes into play. But that's not going to be super crazy. But I'm not a fancy eater. That is not a big issue for me. But I would like to, like I said, I have to treat it like a vacation. For it to
right,
make sense for me, I have to be like, hey, while I'm here, let me go check out a White Sox game at
yeah,
least
yeah,
while I'm in the area. So we'll see. It's one of those things where I'll have to balance out because I'll go on the show floor for sure and check it out. But I haven't even bought the tickets for the actual venue because I'm like, guys, I might just go a couple of times throughout the course of the week because I don't really care. There's very few things that you're going to show me there. I'll see things that I necessarily won't see in other places, but they're not necessarily things that I need to buy or purchase, or they're not my thing.
right.
They'd be cool to see, but it doesn't change the fact that at that point it's a museum. It's a very expensive museum. I'm not
It is
flying out
that,
to visit a museum for that.
no doubt.
Yeah. So this is it. It's a philosophy thing. It's just how everybody takes it. So we'll see. For now, I'm a little lukewarm. I'll probably be a little bit more intrigued when we get a little closer myself. And at the same time, I'll try to make the best of it, and I think that's the plan.
Yeah, you know me, I'm a little more than lukewarm on the whole thing.
Shockingly, slightly more than lukewarm. Yes.
Slightly more, but for a lot of different reasons too. You know, that's okay. You know. All right, what else?
So I think we've covered those ones. I think those are good. I'm just trying to think. Oh, there was one other one that I wanted to take us out on. So now we talked a little bit about how the plans, a lot of it is going to be you guys building up the chasing cardboard, working on that side of things. Bench clear is probably going to stay the course. You may come up with other ideas along the way, but in the meantime, it's you guys have got a decent rotation of what the stuff you got. Is there anything you'd like to do? Like, let's say YouTube wise, is there anything you'd like to do that maybe you haven't had a shot at yet, or something that you aspire to do, or are you kind of happy with where you are? What's going on with that?
No, I don't. There. How do I say this? There's something I'd really like to do, but I don't know how to do it, and that is involve athletes in sports card content creation.
Okay.
And you'll see Bobby Witt Jr. has been on a couple of Panini things, or
Okay.
but a show there. Who was the guy that used to open packs with players?
Oh, with players. I know what you're talking about. I think I've seen that. Seen that web show. The name escapes me though.
But I think, talking about the hobby with players, I think would be cool to get their perspective, and doing a show where if it's once a month or once a week or whatever, where you get that opportunity to talk to a major leaguer or former major leaguer. There's a guy that makes the Pop Fly Pop Shops. Do you know what those are? The little comic book looking things.
Okay.
Like, here's the Lou Gehrig. So it's like a
Okay.
comic book, right?
Gotcha.
So this guy, Daniel Jacob Harine is his name. I had him on my show a while back because there was one he did on Nolan Ryan I thought was super cool, and I bought it, and I was like, dude, I need to talk to you. And so I interviewed him for Golden Age of Cardboard, and he just had Jim Cott, and he had Eddie Murray, and he had all the Dale Murphy, all the guys that he does as subjects for these. He gets them and does an interview with them, and I'm like, holy crap, how do you do that? I can't just call an agent and say, hey, do you want to be on my rinky dink YouTube sports card show? But I think talking to players about it and autographs and what the hobby means to them, and did they care about it when they were a kid, or does it not even matter? I think it'd be fun. Like Evan Longoria's in the hobby. I'd love to do a chat with him.
All right.
Things like that, and get into that realm that I've just never figured out the secret sauce or found the silver bullet to make that work. But maybe someday. So that's what I'd like to do.
Interesting. Oh, I think that's an interesting answer. I wasn't expecting that one. So good on you for throwing a little curveball in there at the end. I like that.
I'd just love to hear their perspective. I think it'd be different than the way we think about it.
I agree with that. That is true. And you could interview Mike Trout and say, why? What would make you finally worthy of Carlos's appreciation? And the answer is nothing. But the truth is, though, he could try.
But Trout has done a couple videos for PSA.
That is true. He has a special customized like Trout family box that they made for him. And so they bribed him. But like I said, bribery works, folks.
Sure.
It really does.
But I'd rather have a more intimate, less formal type, product promotion type of thing that PSA was using it for. Let me just talk to these guys about the hobby. And, I don't know. There are a lot of guys in the hobby. It'd be fun. It'd be different. But I don't know how to do it.
Hey, at least there's aspirations. At least it gives you something to shoot for. So that's not necessarily a bad thing. I like it. So Mike, I appreciate you joining in and answering kind of a fun mix of questions, especially once we got into a couple of those. Those were a little bit fun. And the tangents, of course, were enjoyable as well. So it was good.
A lot of those.
Absolutely. So you guys already know Mike Baseball Collector, Bench Clear Media, and then also Chasing Cardboard. So you got all three of those. I'll include links to all of the above in the description. As he finally, once they finally get past themselves, I think at the Burbank show, they're doing on-site grading. Once Tag finally figures out this vintage thing, Mike will shift over 5,000 cards all to Tag. It's going to be fantastic. He'll find out the 1,000-point scale. It's going to be exciting. You guys are going to love it.
Oh, it's going to be great.
It's like, you don't even know. Like, nothing gives me more joy in the hobby than to promote.
It's a lot of coasters. It's a lot of coasters, Carlos.
But think of how many coasters you'd have. You would never be without a place for your drink. Ever.
No doubt.
Sounds good. So appreciate you joining in and having a good sense of humor, and I appreciate the candor and conversation. I won't wait quite so long to bring you back on. We'll have more things to chat on for sure, especially when we get closer to national. That's a little bit more your exciting time, so we'll probably have another conversation closer to that.
Never get tired of talking about that.
Absolutely. All right, folks.
Thanks, appreciate it.
If you like the videos, subscribe to the channel. Live streams are always on the Fridays, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Mike Baseball Collector co-signs on those. Thumbs up on those. Absolutely. All right, folks. Have yourselves a good night. And Mike, go ahead. Give your tagline at the end.
Hey, keep collecting.